All right, so Samyang just released their 35mm 1.4 PFE lens. And I wanted to make a quick video about it, just sharing some of my initial thoughts. So first off, I'm gonna be looking this way for a lot of the video because I'm looking at my notes. I did not plan on making this video at all. Usually when new camera gear is released, there's a bunch of videos that pop up on YouTube on the embargo date. And today I did not see that. The only video that I saw was from Taylor Jackson, which I'll link to over here somewhere. And his thoughts were pretty similar to mine, but we'll get into that. So the reason I'm making this video, it's not for Samyang, it's for the fellow photographers who have very bad gas, like myself, and who are obsessed with watching gear reviews and updates on new gear that's released. So this is for you guys. This is not for Samyang. That leads me into the first little bit of this video, which is the disclosure. So my relationship with Samyang, they did send me this lens, but it was not to review. It was not to test and review. They actually don't know that I'm making this video, but they sent me this lens in exchange for me taking photos with the lens and of the lens that they could use on their product page. So if you go to the Samyang website, you'll see some of my photos using this lens. So they have no say in what I'm about to say. They didn't ask me to make this. They don't know I'm gonna make this. The second part of that is that I am not a camera reviewer by any means. I've never made a video like this before. I don't have a studio. This is just in my apartment. I do not make money from doing camera reviews. I'm not gonna put an affiliate link down there. I don't give a shit if you order the lens or not. This is just me sharing my honest thoughts about the lens from one photographer to another. I know sometimes people say well, it's impossible to not have a vested interest. They sent you the lens, so you gotta speak highly of it. You gotta say everything is good with the lens, otherwise they won't send you stuff in the future. I don't care. I have all the lenses that I need to do the work that I do. So if they do not like this review, it really doesn't affect me in the slightest. In fact, before I recorded this, I needed to go back through my contract with them just to make sure that I wasn't breaking any rules by recording this. But yeah, I don't have a vested interest in whether or not you buy this lens. If you like it, cool. If you don't, also cool. Sorry, I had to get some tea. So who am I? Why does my opinion on this matter? Honestly, I don't think it really does, but just for context, I'm a photographer. I mostly focus on photographing people. I also photograph dogs. And the thing that I have become most known for this year is photographing strangers. I've been photographing people and dogs for many, many years. It's my full-time job. It's what I do professionally. So that's kind of the context. This is from a portrait photographer's point of view, not like a camera reviewer's point of view. So yeah, just to try to keep this short, what do I think of the lens? Honestly, it's dope. This is a lens that is going to compete against the 35mm 1.4 GM from Sony and the 35mm offerings from Sigma, maybe Tamron. I'm not really sure who else is in the market, but this is a competitor to that. And it is the lightest 35mm 1.4 that exists for Sony E-mount. It is a little bit larger than the 1.4 GM from Sony as far as specs. It doesn't have AF MF switch. It doesn't have any custom buttons. Doesn't have an aperture ring. This is a very simple and just well-constructed lens. So upon using this lens, I took it out next to my 35 GM, which is one of my all-time favorite lenses, and I took some photos with it. And it performed really well. Autofocus was extremely quick. It has great close focusing distance. And if I'm being totally honest, when I got back into Lightroom, I couldn't tell the difference optically between this lens and my GM. There was actually a couple cases where I made a mistake in guessing which one was which. But with that being said, I didn't really put them next to each other side by side to do a direct comparison because I didn't plan on making this video. But what I can say is that taking it for portraits and doing the typical work that I usually do for portraits, I couldn't really tell the difference. Is there going to be a difference maybe in chromatic aberration or the corner sharpness? Yeah, probably, but again, I didn't do those tests because I didn't plan on making this review. In fact, as much as I love watching those gear reviews and I love watching people pixel peep and look at the corner sharpness and point it at charts and brick walls and everything, as much as I love watching that from a nerdy camera consumer perspective, that's not how I typically make my buying decision. So what I typically do is I'll rent the lens that I'm interested in. I'll try it for a day. I'll put it out in the field and see how I like using it. And if I like it, then I'll probably buy it. And if I don't like it, then I don't buy it. It's really that simple. So for me, being able to test this lens and use it the way that I typically do and see that it produces virtually the same images as my 35GM, yeah, frankly, I would buy this lens if I didn't have this. I don't know what the price is going to be on this bad boy yet. Is this as nice as the 35GM? Not really. Like, there's little things like this focusing ring. It's made out of a rubber, which kind of similar to the Sony one, but this catches a little bit more lint. So a little bit more dust gets trapped there, but it is weather sealed as far as I know. And yeah, produces great quality images. I don't know what else to say. Tea break. All right, now look, is there bound to be some image quality differences between these two? Like if you put them side by side and pointed them at a test chart, really put them to the paces, there are going to be differences between the two? I would assume so, because this is more of a budget lens and this is Sony's kind of flagship 35mm first party lens. So this is gonna be the top no matter what. But between the two, looking at the images in the way that I take photos, I could not see a difference. And here's the thing, if there is a little bit of chromatic aberration or there is some softness in the corners, honestly, I'm okay with that. The kinds of images that I take are of people and pets, and they're mostly put in the center or rule of thirds, but I'm never taking photos where I'm putting the subject in the absolute corners. In fact, I think most lenses that come out these days are a little bit too perfect. Like they're a little bit too clinical. They're extremely sharp, and there is definitely use cases for that. But for portrait work, I find that I usually have to push in the opposite direction in order to get the images that I want. So for example, I virtually always use a glimmer glass filter because it softens the skin a little bit and gives it a nice glow. And if I don't do that, then I have to do a little bit too much post-processing work in Lightroom to soften the skin and get rid of those blemishes and creases around the eyes and stuff like that. I embrace lenses that aren't so perfect and aren't so clinical. If the corners are a little bit softer than the center, for me, that's a bonus because it means that it's putting more emphasis on the clarity in the middle of the photograph, which is where I'm putting my subject anyways. Honestly, for me, I want character. I want these little imperfections. But in this case, again, from what I can tell between these two lenses, they're optically very, very close. If you put these two lenses side by side, I don't think 90% of people are going to be able to tell the difference between them. Personally, I couldn't. All right, so you're probably wondering, how's the video performance? Is there any focus breathing? What about landscapes? Honestly, I have no idea. I don't use my camera in those ways. I'm rarely taking photos of landscapes or architecture. I don't do any video production work anymore. The only video that I shoot is with an Insta360, my phone, or a DJI Osmo Pocket. But I guess I'm filming on an A7 IV right now. Here, give me one sec. All right, now we are at 35mm, and this is f2.8. One sec. And this is at f1.4. So this is what the video looks like. I can see the little focus box is locked on my eyeball. I just move around. I don't know, video looks pretty good to me. This is about the extent that I would use the video. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know, that's how the video looks. Anyways, back to sharing thoughts about the lens. So how will I use this lens? Honestly, I'm gonna use it interchangeably to my 35 1.4 GM. In fact, I might use this lens a little bit more in certain situations, just because it is lighter and it is cheaper. So for example, if I'm going on vacation, sometimes I have a fear that I'm gonna get my camera stolen or something like that. I'm totally okay to bring this lens because I know it's gonna be roughly the same quality, a little bit lighter, but if it gets stolen, I'm not gonna be as sad if, as if my 35 1.4 got stolen. I'm gonna use it professionally. I've already used the lens for paid client work. Who's this lens for? Honestly, I think it's for anyone that wants a 35mm 1.4 that maybe doesn't want to pay the full price of a G Master. Maybe they like the 35mm focal range, but not as much as like an 85 or a 135 or a 50. 35mm is a great focal range. You can do environmental portraits with it. You can do video work, landscape, like a whole bunch of other stuff with it. 35mm is one of my favorite focal ranges, and I'm so stoked that we have another option to play with. Pros and cons. Pros, fantastic image quality. Close focusing distance is really close. It's got weather sealing. I didn't test this, so I never put my cameras in the rain, but that's important to you. There's that. It's lightweight. I think it's the lightest option amongst the 35mm 1.4 for Sony E-mount, and it's gonna be cheaper than the Sony GM. Downsides. I'd say it's not as nice or a premium feeling as the 35 1.4 GM. Dust and lint kind of gets caught on the focusing ring, and there's no aperture ring or custom buttons. Personally, I don't really care. I know this is important to a lot of people, so if that stuff is important to you, then maybe consider the GM instead. Honestly, I don't care, especially at a lens that's going to be a fraction of the price. T-break. In conclusion, this lens is dope. I like it. Images are great. Would I buy it? If I didn't have this, absolutely. Honestly, I think it's insane that we are now getting lenses, third-party lenses that are this good, that are often a fraction of the price as the first-party lenses, and they compete with the first-party lenses. I think that's amazing. I think the barrier for entry for a lot of photographers is getting lower and lower, and it's allowing people to get into photography that maybe couldn't afford it before because they can't justify spending $1,500 or $2,000 for a lens since they're not going to be making money off it. That's an expensive hobby for a lot of people. So I embrace the fact that third-party manufacturers like Samyang and Tamron are releasing lenses like this, but don't take my word for it. If this is something that you're interested in buying, go rent it. Go test it out in a store, go try it, borrow, and see for yourself. That's what I do. I think watching these gear reviews is sweet. You know, I do it as well. I watch this stuff, but pick it up for yourself and determine if it's worth spending your time, money, and energy on. That's my recommendation. All right. This is a lot longer than I anticipated. Sorry. Hope this was helpful or valuable in some way. Otherwise, yeah. Let me know what you think.